Somewhere in the vast expanse of the universe, Earth had always been a tiny dot, a pale blue speck floating in an endless sea of stars. For centuries, humanity looked up at the night sky and wondered if they were alone. Were there others out there? Did life exist beyond this planet? These questions lingered like whispers, unanswered but persistent. And then, one evening, everything changed. It happened quietly, almost unnoticed at first. A radio telescope nestled deep in the Australian outback picked up something unusual, a signal that didn't belong to Earth. At first, scientists thought it might be interference from nearby satellites or some glitch in the equipment. But as they analyzed the data, their skepticism turned into astonishment. This wasn't random noise, it was deliberate. Someone or something was trying to communicate. And the signal came in bursts, each pulse carrying patterns too complex to be natural. It wasn't just a random string of numbers or sounds. It was structured like a language. Over the next few hours, researchers worked feverishly to decode it. What they found sent shivers down their spines. Embedded within the transmission were coordinates pointing directly toward Earth's solar system. There was also what appeared to be a greeting, though its exact meaning was still unclear. News of the discovery spread quickly through scientific circles, and soon governments around the world were alerted. Emergency meetings were called, and leaders huddled together behind closed doors. Publicly, officials urged calm, assuring people that there was no immediate threat. Privately, however, military commanders began preparing for every possible scenario. When was this a friendly hello from distant neighbors? Or was it the precursor to something far more sinister? As word leaked to the public, reactions varied wildly. Some people felt exhilarated, believing this was proof that humanity wasn't alone in the cosmos. Others grew fearful, imagining all sorts of worst-case scenarios. Social media exploded with theories, memes, and debates. Religious groups prayed for guidance, while conspiracy theorists claimed the government had known about extraterrestrial life for years and was only now admitting it. Amidst the chaos, one thing became clear: nothing would ever be the same again. At the heart of the unfolding drama was a young astrophysicist who had been working on decoding the alien message. They weren't particularly famous or influential, just someone doing their job, but suddenly, they found themselves thrust into the spotlight. Their expertise became invaluable as humanity grappled with how to respond. Should they reply? If so, what should they say? Every decision carried monumental weight because whoever or whatever had sent the signal was watching and waiting. The astrophysicists spent long nights poring over the data, searching for clues hidden within the patterns. Each new revelation brought both excitement and unease. For instance, while the message seemed polite enough, there were subtle undertones that hinted at something darker, an expectation of compliance, perhaps even submission. It was as if the sender assumed Earth would fall in line without question. That realization made everyone uneasy. Meanwhile, ordinary people went about their lives trying to make sense of what was happening. Families gathered around televisions to watch breaking news updates. Friends debated over coffee whether aliens were friend or foe. Children gazed at the stars with wide-eyed wonder, imagining what these mysterious beings might look like. Even those who tried to ignore the story couldn't escape it entirely. It was everywhere, dominating conversations and headlines alike. Back in the labs, the pressure mounted. Scientists argued passionately about the best course of action. Some believed humanity should send a warm, welcoming response, emphasizing peace and cooperation. Others advocated for caution, warning against revealing too much information until they understood the intentions behind the signal. Tensions ran high, but eventually a consensus emerged. Earth needed to respond, not with fear, but with strength and intelligence. And so, after days of deliberation, humanity crafted its reply. It included basic mathematical constants, images of Earth's geography, and a declaration of peaceful intent. However, embedded within the message was also a subtle reminder of humanity's technological prowess. It wasn't meant as a threat exactly, but rather as a statement. We may be small, but we are not powerless. With bated breath, the message was transmitted back into the void. Then came the hardest part, waiting. Days stretched into weeks, and still, there was no response. Had the aliens received the message? Did they understand it? Or had they already moved on, dismissing Earth as unworthy of further attention? No one knew for sure, but deep down, everyone understood one thing. Humanity had taken its first step onto the cosmic stage. Whether this would lead to friendship, a conflict, or something else entirely remained to be seen. One thing was certain, though. The journey had only just begun. The moment Earth sent its reply into the vastness of space, a collective sigh of relief swept across the planet. For weeks, humanity had been holding its breath, debating, arguing, and second-guessing every decision. Now finally they had spoken. The message was out there, traveling at the speed of light toward whoever, or whatever, had reached out first. But as the initial excitement faded, a new kind of tension settled in. What would happen next? Would the aliens respond? And if they did, what would they say? At first there was silence, not just the usual quiet hum of the universe, but an eerie stillness that seemed to stretch endlessly. Days turned into weeks, and people began to wonder if the signal had even been received. Maybe it had gotten lost in the vast distances between stars. Or maybe the aliens had decided Earth wasn't worth their time after all. Speculation ran rampant with everyone, from scientists to school children, offering their own theories. In the meantime, life on Earth continued, though nothing felt quite normal anymore. Governments remained on high alert, military bases brimming with activity. Fighter jets patrolled the skies more frequently than ever before, and radar systems scanned the heavens for any sign of movement. While leaders publicly urged calm, privately contingency plans were being drawn up for every possible scenario. No one wanted to admit it, but fear lingered in the air like a storm cloud waiting to burst. For the astrophysicists who had played such a crucial role in crafting Earth's response, the wait was agonizing. They spent long hours staring at screens filled with data, searching for any hint of a reply. Sleep became elusive, replaced by endless cups of coffee and restless pacing. Friends and colleagues tried to offer reassurance, reminding them that patience was key when dealing with interstellar communication. After all, even light took years to travel across galaxies. But deep down, the astrophysicists couldn't shake the feeling that something big was coming, and soon. Then, without warning, it happened. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and painted the sky in shades of orange and purple, the signal arrived. It came suddenly, jolting researchers out of their routines. At first glance, and it looked similar to the original transmission, structured patterns carrying layers of meaning. But this time, there was a difference. The tone had shifted. Gone was the polite curiosity of the initial message. In its place was something colder, sharper, something that felt almost confrontational. As scientists worked tirelessly to decode the new transmission, fragments of its meaning began to emerge. The aliens hadn't ignored Earth's reply. They'd analyzed it carefully, and now they wanted answers. Embedded within the latest message were pointed questions about certain elements of Earth's response, particularly the references to advanced technology and defensive capabilities. It was as if they were probing, testing humanity's resolve. Were these humans truly as capable as they claimed? Or were they bluffing, trying to appear stronger than they actually were? News of the updated transmission spread quickly, sparking heated debates around the globe. Some argued that humanity should double down on projecting strength, believing it was the only way to deter aggression. If we show weakness, or they reason, they'll see us as easy targets. Others, however, feared provoking a species whose technology might far surpass anything humans could imagine. We're playing with fire here, they warned. One wrong move, and we could end up destroying ourselves. Caught in the middle of these conflicting viewpoints was the same astrophysicist who had helped craft Earth's original response. Once again, their insights proved invaluable. As they dug deeper into the alien message, they uncovered subtle nuances that others had missed. For instance, while the aliens' tone was undeniably stern, it wasn't outright hostile. Not yet, anyway. There was still room for diplomacy, but the window was closing fast. Every word, every gesture mattered now more than ever. Publicly, world leaders struggled to maintain a united front. Behind closed doors, however, divisions were beginning to surface. Some nations pushed for a bold, aggressive stance, urging Earth to flex its muscles and demonstrate its readiness to defend itself. Others advocated for caution, emphasizing the importance of peaceful negotiation. These disagreements spilled over into the media, fueling public anxiety. Protesters took to the streets, holding signs that read everything from "Stand strong" to "Peace, not war." Social media buzzed with arguments, memes, and conspiracy theories, each side convinced they knew best. Amidst the chaos, ordinary people found themselves grappling with their own emotions. Parents hugged their children a little tighter at night, wondering what kind of future awaited them. Students sat in classrooms distracted by thoughts of alien invasions and intergalactic diplomacy. Even those who tried to focus on everyday tasks found it hard to ignore the looming question: what happens next? Back in the labs, the decoding process continued around the clock. Researchers collaborated across continents, sharing insights and piecing together the puzzle bit by bit. Slowly but surely, a clearer picture began to emerge. The aliens weren't merely curious. They were testing Earth. Their questions weren't random. They were calculated, designed to gauge humanity's intelligence, resourcefulness, and determination. But it was as if they were sizing up a potential ally or adversary. This realization weighed heavily on the astrophysicists. They couldn't help but wonder whether humanity's bravado was justified or reckless. Had they revealed too much in their initial response? Or had they struck just the right balance between confidence and humility? These questions haunted them, keeping them awake long into the night. Finally, after days of painstaking analysis, the team reached a conclusion. The aliens' latest message carried an unspoken challenge. They wanted proof, not just words, but action. If Earth hoped to earn their respect, it would need to demonstrate its capabilities in a tangible way. But how? And at what cost? With time running out, humanity faced a critical decision. Should they rise to the challenge, risking everything to prove their worth? Or should they step back, choosing caution over confrontation? Whatever path they chose, one thing was certain: the stakes had never been higher. As the astrophysicists stared at the final decoded message, they couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. The aliens had thrown down the gauntlet, and now it was up to humanity to pick it up or walk away. Either way, the choice would shape the course of history, for better or worse. The clock was ticking. Humanity had faced challenges before: wars, pandemics, natural disasters, but nothing compared to this. For the first time in history, the entire planet was united by a single looming question: what would the aliens do next? After their latest transmission, it became clear that Earth wasn't dealing with curious explorers or benevolent visitors. These beings were calculating, methodical, and unyielding. And now they had issued an ultimatum. It arrived without fanfare, slipping into Earth's communication arrays like a shadow. At first glance, the message seemed straightforward: a demand for clarification. The aliens wanted answers about Earth's references to advanced weaponry and defensive systems. But beneath the surface lay something far more sinister. This wasn't just a request, it was a test. They were probing humanity's resolve, trying to determine whether Earth was friend or foe. If the response didn't satisfy them, the consequences could be catastrophic. As scientists worked to decode the full meaning of the ultimatum, panic began to ripple across the globe. News outlets broke the story within hours, sparking widespread fear and confusion. People gathered around televisions and smartphones, desperate for updates. Social media exploded with posts, ranging from hopeful prayers to frantic warnings. Conspiracy theories ran rampant, with some claiming the government was hiding the truth, while others speculated about alien invasions. Amidst the chaos, one thing was undeniable. Humanity was on edge. World leaders convened emergency meetings, scrambling to formulate a response. Behind closed doors, tensions flared as nations debated the best course of action. Some argued for strength, insisting that Earth needed to project power and show the aliens it wouldn't back down. If we appear weak, they warned, they'll see us as prey. Others pushed for diplomacy, urging caution and emphasizing the importance of peaceful negotiation. We can't afford to provoke them, they countered. One wrong move, and we could bring destruction upon ourselves. Caught in the middle of these heated discussions was the astrophysicist who had been instrumental in decoding the alien messages. Their role had grown exponentially since the initial signal was received, and now they found themselves at the center of humanity's most critical decision. Day after day, they pored over data, searching for clues hidden within the patterns of the aliens' communication. Each revelation brought both clarity and unease. It was becoming increasingly clear that the aliens viewed Earth not as equals, but as a potential threat, or perhaps an asset to be controlled. Publicly, governments tried to maintain a sense of calm, assuring citizens that every possible scenario was being considered. Privately, however, military commanders prepared for the worst. Fighter jets patrolled the skies, radar systems scanned the heavens, and underground bunkers were readied for evacuation. The world braced itself for whatever might come next. Meanwhile, ordinary people struggled to make sense of the situation. Families huddled together, discussing what they would do if the aliens attacked. Schools held emergency drills, teaching children how to respond in case of an invasion. Even those who tried to go about their daily lives couldn't escape the pervasive sense of dread. Every plane flying overhead, every strange sound in the night, it all felt ominous, as though the end of the world was just around the corner. Back in the labs, the decoding process continued nonstop. Researchers collaborated across continents, sharing insights and piecing together the puzzle bit by bit. Slowly but surely, a clearer picture emerged. The aliens weren't merely issuing demands. They were testing humanity's ability to adapt and respond under pressure. Their ultimatum wasn't just about weapons or technology. It was about resilience, unity, and determination. They wanted to know whether Earth could stand its ground or crumble under the weight of fear. This realization weighed heavily on the astrophysicist. They couldn't help but wonder whether humanity's bravado was justified or reckless. Had they revealed too much in their earlier responses, or had they struck just the right balance between confidence and humility? These questions haunted them, keeping them awake long into the night. Friends and colleagues offered words of encouragement, reminding them that they were doing everything they could. But deep down, the astrophysicist knew the truth. The fate of humanity rested, at least in part, on their shoulders. Finally, after days of painstaking analysis, the team reached a conclusion. The aliens' ultimatum carried an unspoken challenge. They wanted proof, not just words, but action. If Earth hoped to earn their respect, it would need to demonstrate its capabilities in a tangible way. But how? And at what cost? With time running out, humanity faced a critical decision. Should they rise to the challenge, risking everything to prove their worth? Or should they step back, choosing caution over confrontation? Whatever path they chose, one thing was certain: the stakes had never been higher. As the deadline approached, the atmosphere grew heavier. Cities buzzed with nervous energy, and even the quietest corners of the planet felt the tension. But in small towns and bustling metropolises alike, people came together, not out of celebration, but out of necessity. Neighbors who had never spoken exchanged worried glances. Strangers shared stories of hope and fear, finding solace in the fact that no one was facing this alone. In the final hours before the ultimatum expired, humanity made its choice. Leaders from every nation stood side by side, presenting a united front. They drafted a bold counter-response, refusing to bow to intimidation. Instead, they reiterated their willingness to engage in dialogue, but made it clear that any attempt at coercion would be met with resistance. Embedded within the message was evidence of humanity's ingenuity and resourcefulness, showcasing advancements in science, medicine, and technology. It was a statement of pride, resilience, and defiance. When the message was transmitted, a collective breath was held. Would the aliens accept it, or would they retaliate? No one knew for sure. All anyone could do was wait and hope. As the astrophysicists watched the signal disappear into the void, they couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. The aliens had thrown down the gauntlet, and now it was up to humanity to pick it up or walk away. Either way, the choice would shape the course of history, for better or worse. The moment Earth's counter-response was transmitted into the vastness of space, a strange calm settled over the planet. It wasn't the kind of peace that comes with resolution. It was more like the eerie quiet before a storm. Humanity had spoken, loud and clear, but now it was time to wait. And waiting, as everyone quickly realized, was far harder than acting. Hours turned into days, and still there was no reply. The aliens, who had been so insistent in their earlier messages, seemed to have vanished. Every sensor array pointed toward their last known location came up empty. Radar systems scanned the skies, telescopes peered into the depths of space, and satellites orbited the planet, searching for any sign of movement. But nothing. Not a single blip, not a whisper of activity. It was as though the aliens had never existed. This sudden silence left humanity baffled. What did it mean? Had they retreated, scared off by Earth's bold response? Or were they simply biding their time, preparing for something bigger? No one could say for sure, and that uncertainty gnawed at everyone, from world leaders to ordinary citizens. In government offices around the globe, emergency meetings continued nonstop. Now, military commanders pored over data, trying to make sense of the aliens' disappearance. Some believed it was a good sign, that Earth's message had struck the right chord, convincing the extraterrestrials to back off. Others weren't so optimistic. They argued that the silence was deceptive, a tactic meant to lull humanity into complacency before launching an attack. Both theories circulated widely, fueling debates that showed no signs of ending anytime soon. For the astrophysicist who had played such a pivotal role in decoding the alien messages, the silence was maddening. They spent long hours staring at screens filled with static, hoping against hope for even the faintest trace of a signal. Sleep became an afterthought, replaced by endless cups of coffee and restless pacing. Friends and colleagues tried to offer reassurance, reminding them that patience was key when dealing with interstellar communication. After all, even light took years to travel across galaxies. But deep down, the astrophysicist couldn't shake the feeling that something big was coming, and soon. Meanwhile, public sentiment swung wildly between hope and despair. Some people saw the aliens' disappearance as proof that humanity's bravado had paid off. "We stood our ground," they said, and they backed down. Others weren't convinced. Conspiracy theories ran rampant, with some claiming the government was hiding the truth, while others speculated about alien invasions lurking just out of sight. Social media buzzed with arguments, memes, and wild guesses, each side convinced they knew best. Amidst the chaos, ordinary people tried to go about their lives, though nothing felt quite normal anymore. Parents hugged their children a little tighter at night, wondering what kind of future awaited them. Students sat in classrooms distracted by thoughts of alien invasions and intergalactic diplomacy. Even those who tried to focus on everyday tasks found it hard to ignore the looming question, what happens next? Back in the labs, researchers refused to give up. They analyzed every fragment of data from the aliens' previous transmissions, searching for clues that might explain their sudden silence. Slowly but surely, patterns began to emerge. The astrophysicists, working tirelessly alongside their team, uncovered hints that the aliens hadn't simply fled, they had retreated strategically. Their behavior suggested they were reassessing their approach, recalibrating their strategy based on Earth's unexpected show of unity and strength. This revelation brought both relief and unease. On one hand, it meant humanity's response had made an impact. The aliens hadn't dismissed Earth as insignificant. Instead, they had taken notice, treating humanity as a serious player on the cosmic stage. On the other hand, it raised troubling questions. Why had they underestimated Earth in the first place? And what would they do differently when, if, they returned? As weeks turned into months, the initial panic began to fade, replaced by a cautious optimism. Governments invested heavily in planetary defenses, building new technologies inspired by insights gleaned from the alien communications. Scientists continued studying the data, hoping to unlock further secrets about the extraterrestrials' motives and capabilities. Meanwhile, ordinary people found ways to channel their fear into action. Communities came together, organizing events to celebrate resilience and unity. Art, music, and literature flourished, capturing the spirit of a species determined to survive and thrive, no matter what challenges lay ahead. But even as life on Earth slowly returned to normal, the memory of the aliens lingered like a shadow. People looked up at the stars with a mix of wonder and apprehension, knowing that somewhere out there, eyes were watching. The experience had changed humanity in profound ways. Nations that once squabbled over trivial matters now collaborated seamlessly, driven by the shared memory of facing extinction. Advances in science and technology accelerated, fueled by knowledge gained from the brief encounter. Humanity began reaching beyond its solar system, seeking answers to the mysteries posed by the vanished visitors. And for the astrophysicist, the journey had been transformative. They had started as just another researcher, doing their job without much thought to the bigger picture. But now they were part of something extraordinary, a story that would be told for generations to come. Their work inspired a new generation of scientists dedicated to exploring the cosmos, not out of fear, but out of curiosity and determination. Humanity had faced the unknown and emerged stronger because of it. Yet questions remained. Why had the aliens approached Earth in the first place? What had they hoped to achieve? And what would happen when, if, they returned? No one knew for sure, but one thing was certain. Humanity was ready. Whatever the future held, Earth would face it together, united by the lessons learned during those tense months of uncertainty. As the astrophysicists gazed at the night sky, they couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. Humanity had stared into the abyss and refused to blink. They had shown the universe that Earth was not just a fragile outpost, but a thriving civilization capable of standing its ground. And while the road ahead was uncertain, one thing was clear: humanity's journey among the stars had only just begun. Years passed and the aliens never returned. Their sudden disappearance remained one of the greatest mysteries in human history, a cosmic cliffhanger that left people wondering what might have been. Yet even in their absence, the impact of their brief visit lingered like an echo across time. Humanity had faced the unknown, and emerged forever changed. The experience became a turning point, was shaping not just how people saw themselves, but also how they viewed their place in the universe. In the immediate aftermath of the aliens' silence, life on Earth slowly began to return to normal, or as close to normal as it could be after such an event. Governments scaled back their emergency protocols, though planetary defenses remained stronger than ever before. Military bases continued monitoring the skies, and research facilities dedicated themselves to studying every fragment of data left behind by the extraterrestrials. Scientists worked tirelessly, analyzing patterns in the alien messages, searching for clues about their origins, motives, and technology. Each new discovery brought both excitement and unease, reminding humanity that while the aliens were gone, they weren't forgotten. For ordinary people, the memory of the encounter became part of everyday life. It was there in the way parents told bedtime stories to their children, weaving tales of courage and unity under the stars. It was there in classrooms, where teachers used the event as a lesson in science, history, and diplomacy. And it was there in art galleries, concert halls, and bookstores, where creative minds explored themes of resilience, curiosity, and hope. Humanity had stared into the abyss and refused to blink. And now that moment of defiance inspired countless expressions of creativity and reflection. One of the most profound changes came in the way nations interacted with one another. For centuries, Earth had been divided by borders, ideologies, and conflicts. But facing the prospect of an extraterrestrial threat forced humanity to confront its own divisions. Suddenly, a petty squabble seemed insignificant compared to the larger stakes at play. Nations that once struggled to cooperate found common ground, working together to ensure the survival of the species. This newfound spirit of collaboration extended beyond politics. It permeated every aspect of society. Scientists shared breakthroughs openly, artists collaborated across continents, and communities rallied around shared goals. In many ways, the alien encounter became a catalyst for global unity. At the heart of this transformation was the astrophysicist who had played such a crucial role in decoding the alien messages. Their work didn't end when the aliens vanished. If anything, it intensified. They became a symbol of hope and resilience, traveling the world to speak about the lessons learned during those tense months. Audiences listened intently as they recounted the challenges faced, the decisions made, and the ultimate triumph of standing firm against uncertainty. Their words resonated deeply, inspiring a new generation of thinkers, dreamers, and doers. Young scientists, engineers, and explorers looked up to them as a role model, eager to follow in their footsteps. Universities expanded their programs in astrophysics, astrobiology, and space exploration, attracting students from all corners of the globe. Private companies invested heavily in developing technologies capable of reaching farther into the cosmos. Even governments, once hesitant to fund ambitious space missions, now threw their weight behind projects aimed at uncovering the secrets of the universe. Humanity wasn't content to wait for the aliens to return. They wanted answers, and they were determined to find them on their own terms. As Earth's reach extended beyond its solar system, discoveries poured in. Probes sent to distant planets revealed breathtaking landscapes and tantalizing hints of microbial life. Telescopes captured images of exoplanets orbiting faraway stars, sparking debates about whether any of them might harbor intelligent civilizations. Each revelation added another piece to the puzzle, bringing humanity closer to understanding its place among the stars. Yet despite these advances, no trace of the mysterious aliens was ever found. It was as though they had vanished completely, leaving behind only questions. The lack of closure troubled some, but for others, it was a source of inspiration. The people began to see the aliens' disappearance not as an ending, but as a beginning, a reminder that the universe was vast, full of wonders waiting to be discovered. This shift in perspective transformed how humanity approached the cosmos. Gone was the fear of the unknown. In its place was a sense of wonder and possibility. Space exploration became less about conquest and more about connection, an effort to bridge the gap between worlds, whether inhabited or not. Back on Earth, the legacy of the alien encounter continued to shape daily life. Cities grew greener and more sustainable, driven by a collective desire to protect the planet. Education systems evolved, emphasizing critical thinking, adaptability, and empathy. Even entertainment reflected the changing times, with movies, books, and games exploring themes of cooperation, innovation, and perseverance. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge and come out stronger, not because of what it had fought against, but because of what it had built together. For the astrophysicists, the years that followed were filled with purpose and fulfillment. They watched with pride as their work inspired others to look beyond Earth's horizon. They attended conferences, gave lectures, and mentored young researchers, sharing their knowledge and passion with anyone willing to listen. Though they never claimed to have all the answers, they encouraged others to keep asking questions, to embrace curiosity as a guiding principle. "We may never know why the aliens came," they often said, "but we can choose how we respond to the mystery. We can let it divide us, or we can let it unite us." And unite it did. Humanity entered a new era, defined not by fear but by hope. Advances in technology allowed people to live longer, healthier lives, while breakthroughs in communication brought distant cultures closer together. Art and science flourished side by side, each feeding off the other's creativity. Even the stars themselves seemed brighter, as though they were cheering humanity on in its quest for knowledge and understanding. Yet amidst all the progress, one question remained unanswered. Would the aliens ever return? Some believed they would, arguing that their initial visit was just the first step in a much larger plan. Others thought they had moved on, dismissing Earth as unworthy of further attention. Still, others speculated that they were watching silently, observing humanity's growth from afar. Whatever the truth, no one could deny that their brief appearance had left an indelible mark. As decades passed, the story of the alien encounter became legend, a tale passed down through generations. Parents told their children about the day Earth stood its ground, refusing to bow to intimidation. Teachers used it as a lesson in courage, unity, and the power of collective action. Artists reimagined it in countless forms, from epic films to intimate poems. And scientists continued to search the skies, driven by the belief that somewhere out there, answers awaited. Looking back, it was clear that humanity's brush with the unknown had been a gift, a chance to see itself through fresh eyes. The aliens may have frozen in silence, but their legacy endured. They had forced humanity to confront its vulnerabilities and strengths, ultimately proving that even in the face of overwhelming odds, unity and courage could prevail. As Earth looked to the stars, it did so not as a fragile outpost, but as a thriving civilization ready to claim its place among the galaxies. And so, the journey continued. Humanity had taken its first steps onto the cosmic stage, guided by the lessons of the past and the promise of the future. Whether the aliens returned or not, one thing was certain: Earth was no longer alone. It carried within it the memories, hopes, and dreams of a species determined to explore, connect, and thrive. The stars beckoned, and humanity answered, with open hearts, curious minds, and unwavering resolve.